Hey, welcome to the Deep Dive. You know how we like to take a closer look at something interesting happening out there?
Yeah, get into the nitty-gritty.
Exactly. Well, today we're diving into a really intriguing story from the world of golf. It's about the upcoming return of Argentine golfer Angel Cabrera.
Ah, Cabrera. To the Masters, right, in April 2025.
That's the one. It's a comeback with a pretty significant backstory. I mean, seeing as he's been serving a prison sentence.
Yeah, that definitely adds a layer or several layers.
It brings up a lot of questions, doesn't it, about, second chances and how we view athletes when they step off the field, that kind of thing.
And what it really means to be welcomed back. It's complex.
So for everyone listening, we've pulled together the key details. Our main source is a really comprehensive CNN article. We're aiming to give you a clear picture, balancing, his golf achievements with all the controversy.
Right. It's definitely more than just your standard sports redemption story. There are some pretty heavy issues tangled up in this one.
For sure. It's fascinating trying to sort of untangle the sequence of events and understand all the different viewpoints to really get what this return signifies.
Hmm.
Absolutely. So let's start with the basics. Cabrera heading back to Augusta in 2025. That's his first time playing the Masters since, what, 2019?
Yeah, 2019, that's quite a gap. A noticeable absence.
So what exactly kept him away for so long? I mean, we touched on it, but the specifics.
Right. So as the CNN article lays out, Cabrera was imprisoned back in Argentina. This was due to domestic abuse charges.
Okay.
And the specific prison, Carcel de Bauer, it apparently has this nickname, the prison from hell.
Wow. The prison from hell. That's
Yeah.
stark.
Yep. Quite a contrast to the green fairways of Augusta National we usually picture.
It really hits home. And to think he's going back to one of the most, well, revered places in golf.
Yeah.
Now, despite all this, he still gets that golden ticket to the Masters every year,
Yeah.
right? How did that work?
That's one of the perks of winning the green jacket. His victory back in 2009, that secured him a lifetime invitation. It's a long-standing tradition there, a way they honor their past champions.
Okay, so let's dig into the specifics then. What led to the imprisonment? What were the actual accusations?
Well, according to reports, specifically from the Associated Press, two of his former girlfriends accused him of domestic abuse.
Two former partners.
Yeah, and this led to a required court appearance in Argentina. But back in 2020, he actually skipped it
Skip the court date. Why?
to play golf. He went to play in a PGA Tour Champions event over in Ohio.
Wow. That sounds incredibly risky. Didn't sit well with the authorities, I imagine.
You're right, not at all. That move triggered an international alert, an Interpol red notice.
An Interpol notice, so like a global arrest warrant?
Essentially, yeah. And he was subsequently apprehended in Brazil.
Okay. So arrested in Brazil, what happened then?
He spent about 4.5 months in a Brazilian prison
Mm-hmm.
in Rio de Janeiro. Then he was extradited back to Argentina to face the music, basically.
And the CNN article, it really delves into some quite disturbing details of those accusations, particularly from one of his ex-girlfriends.
It does. Cecilia Torres Mana. She provided a very detailed written account. This was to Orado First Person News back in 2021.
And what did she allege?
Her allegations were deeply concerning. We're talking claims of physical, psychological, and even sexual abuse. She described specific instances like being physically hit, having her movements severely controlled.
Controlled how?
Well, she mentioned being locked in a closet when they were in Texas at one point,
Hmm.
and being prevented from seeing her own mother when she was dying.
Oh my God, that's awful.
Yeah, and she also stated that he threatened her if she ever tried to leave him.
Those are incredibly disturbing allegations. Just paints a really, really difficult picture. And it wasn't just those initial accusations that led to legal trouble, was it? There was more.
No, unfortunately not. In 2022, he was also found guilty of making threats and harassing another ex-girlfriend.
Another one.
So ultimately, he ended up serving a total of 30 months in prison. That was split between facilities in Brazil and Argentina. He was paroled in August 2023.
Right. And the article also mentioned, didn't it, that he had an issue getting back last year, too. Something about a visa.
That's right, yeah. In 2024, he couldn't secure a travel visa in time to actually participate in that year's Masters. So this 2025 return is really the first feasible opportunity since his release.
Okay. So it's crucial then to consider how Cabrera himself has, talked about all this, his side of things, or his perspective now.
Well, initially, he denied the allegations, maintained his innocence.
Which is common, I suppose.
True, but there seems to have been a shift, maybe. In a 2023 interview with Golf Digest, he admitted making serious mistakes. He used those words.
Serious mistakes.
Yeah. And he said, "I wasn't the devil, but I did bad things." That was his quote.
Wasn't the devil, but did bad things.
And he also expressed remorse in a statement to the Daily Mail. Said he regretted his past behavior, the lost years of his life. He even mentioned reaching out to his former partners to ask for forgiveness.
Did he really?
According to the report, yeah. Saying they had the bad luck of crossing paths with me when I was at my worst.
So quite a change in tone. From denial to acknowledging wrongdoing and expressing regret, at least publicly.
Seems that way, yes.
Now, this whole situation, obviously, it sparked a lot of discussion. Augusta National itself, the club, they've had to weigh in on his return, haven't they?
They have. The chairman, Fred Ridley, he publicly acknowledged Cabrera, calling him one of our great champions.
Right, emphasizing the past win.
Exactly. In explaining the invitation for 2025, he pointed to the fact that Cabrera had served his sentence. And, based on their tradition of inviting all past champions, the invitation stood.
But did they address the nature of the conviction?
They did. Ridley also made a very clear statement. He said Augusta National certainly abhors domestic violence of any type.
Okay. So trying to walk a line there.
It feels like it. Carefully balancing their traditions, perhaps, with a clear public stance on the issue itself.
It does sound like a very carefully worded statement. Trying to navigate honoring a past champion while acknowledging the seriousness of what he did. What about the wider golf community? Reactions there? Mixed. Supportive.
Definitely a mix, it seems. The article highlights some notable support, like Ben Crenshaw expressing excitement about Cabrera potentially joining the Champions Dinner again, said he'd offer him a personal welcome.
Okay, so some embrace from fellow champion.
Yeah. And Cabrera's coach, Charlie Epps, mentioned that other big names like Bernhard Langer and Gary Player actually wrote letters of support to Cabrera while he was incarcerated.
Really? While he was in prison?
According to Epps, yes. Suggests a level of empathy or support within certain circles of the golf world.
But it's fair to say, as the CNN article also points out, that opinions must be pretty divided, right, on whether his return to such a prestigious event is appropriate, especially considering the victims.
You've hit on a crucial point there, absolutely. The lingering fear expressed by Cecilia Torres-Mana, even after Cabrera was initially jailed, that really underscores the deep and lasting harm.
Yeah.
It brings up that big question. Can a return to a place of celebration like the Masters be universally accepted, given that history? There are definitely very different perspectives on whether his golf achievements should somehow, outweigh the seriousness of his off-course conduct.
It's a tough one. And what about Cabrera himself? How's he approaching this return to Augusta, knowing he'll be under such intense scrutiny?
Well, in his public statements leading up to it, he's acknowledged that, there will be differing opinions. He said he respects those views.
Okay.
He seems to be framing this whole thing as a second chance, in life, something he feels he needs to make the most of. He emphasized his intention to do the right things going forward.
Right. But what about the specific question of whether he should be playing? Wow. Did he address that?
He did. When asked directly if he believes he should be allowed to play the Masters, his response was pretty blunt. Almost defiant, you could say.
What did he say?
He said, "I won the Masters. Why not?"
I won the Masters. Why not? That's very direct.
Very direct, very focused purely on the sporting achievement, the past victory as the justification.
Doesn't really engage with the broader complexities, does it? Just, I won, therefore I play.
Pretty much sums up that particular quote, yeah.
Okay, let's shift gears slightly. The article also touches on his recent performance. How's his golf game been since getting out?
Interestingly, and maybe a bit surprisingly, just before the Masters, he actually won an event. The James Hardy Pro Football Hall of Fame Invitational down in Florida.
He won a tournament.
Yep. His first victory on the Senior Champions Tour in almost 11 years. And his first win anywhere in quite some time.
Wow. After spending time in prison where, presumably, he wasn't playing much golf.
Reportedly didn't touch a club during his time inside, yeah. And what's more, he only got into that Florida tournament field because another player withdrew. He was an alternate.
That's quite a story in itself, the comeback win like that. What about his track record at the Masters itself? Good history there.
He actually has a pretty solid history at Augusta, yeah. 6 top 10 finishes over the years. That includes, obviously, his win in '09, and he lost in a playoff another year, too.
So he knows how to play the course.
Definitely. He has the pedigree, but
Yeah.
it's also worth remembering, in his last 3 appearances before the absence, he missed the cut each time.
Ah, okay. So recent Augusta form wasn't stellar leading up to the break.
Exactly. So while he can clearly play well there and he just had that win, his most recent Masters performances weren't top tier. It's a bit of an unknown, really.
This whole situation, it also kind of puts a spotlight on Augusta National itself, doesn't it? The article mentioned how the club's image has, well, evolved a bit over time.
Yes, that's a good point. For a long, long time, Augusta National had this reputation, fair or not, of being very traditional, maybe even slow on progressive issues.
Right, the old boys club image.
Kind of, yeah. But as the article points out, particularly in the last, say, 15 years, there have been some notable shifts. They admitted their first female members, Condoleezza Rice and Darla Moore, back in 2012.
I remember that, yeah. Big news at the time.
Huge. And since 2019, they've been hosting the Augusta National Women's Amateur, a major event for women's amateur golf.
Right, so they've made these moves towards, well, modernity, inclusivity.
It certainly suggests a desire to evolve, to become more inclusive, maybe shed some of that older image.
So it creates this interesting, maybe slightly awkward contrast, doesn't it?
Yeah.
On one hand, you have these efforts towards inclusivity, opening doors.
Mm.
On the other, they're welcoming back a past champion with this very serious history of domestic violence convictions.
It absolutely does create a contrast. It makes you wonder how they reconcile those things internally or publicly. How do they balance tradition, the lifetime invite for champions, with contemporary social values and the condemnation of domestic abuse?
Yeah. It raises questions about what values they prioritize, I guess. Is it the legal sentence served, the past victory, the current statement against abuse? How do they all fit?
It seems their public stance is focusing on, well, he served his time, the rules say past champions are invited, but we absolutely condemn the actions. It's a complex message.
So, wrapping up this deep dive then, it's really clear that Angel Cabrera's return to the Masters in 2025 is, well, it's a story with a lot of layers. It's far more than just a sports comeback.
Absolutely. We've touched on his big wins, the green jacket, but also the really serious legal consequences for his actions off the course. And then there's this whole ongoing discussion, the different views on second chances, especially for famous athletes.
Yeah. And for you, our listener, we hope this rundown, drawing mainly from that CNN piece, has given you a thorough and balanced understanding of the whole situation, the facts, the context, the different perspectives.
Definitely. And this whole situation, it really leaves us with something pretty important to think about, doesn't it?
What's that?
Just what does it truly mean? For sports organizations, for fans, for the community, when a celebrated athlete who has committed serious offenses like this is welcomed back into the fold.
Yeah.
Like, what are the most important factors to weigh up in these situations? How do we balance the idea of redemption, if that's even on the table, with the absolute need to acknowledge the harm caused, especially to victims?
That's a really powerful question. It goes way beyond just golf, doesn't it?
It really does. It touches on fundamental questions about accountability, forgiveness, and ultimately what values we choose to uphold. Something to definitely mull over.